Greetings to all. My name is Lina Haddad Kreidie. I am a senior researcher and consultant at the Intisar Foundation. I'm also a fellow at the Center for the Study of Ethics at the University of California, Irvine. And this is how we connected both UC Irvine and Intisar Foundation. The aim of this podcast is to give our appreciation to the Medical Humanities Center for the grant that Professor Kristen Monroe had helped us to receive, and to showcase what Intisar Foundation really does and what this grant that we got helped in filling a gap in one of our projects, which we'll be discussing later on in this podcast. So to start with, I'm going to introduce Her Royal Highness Sheikha Intisar AlSabah, who will tell us more about the foundation, its mission, vision, and future plan. Good afternoon, Your Royal Highness Sheikha Intisar. Thank you for being here, for being with the women in the Arab world, for being for the women that are socioeconomically disadvantaged, that are refugees, displaced. Definitely your mission to empower the Arab women and to reach 1 million Arab women is, with your dedication, with your stamina, we will be able to reach that. Today, I would like to share with our audience here. It's the University of California, Irvine, the Ethics Center, Professor Kristen Monroe, the Medical Humanities Center at the University of California, Irvine, what Intisar Foundation is all about. Maybe I can't talk a lot about that from my heart and from my brain, but it is you. Intisar Foundation, it wouldn't have been if it was not you. So please, Sheikha Intisar, tell us a little bit about how you started Intisar Foundation.
Firstly, thank you so much for this opportunity to speak about what we do at Intisar Foundation and all the changes that we've been able to witness and document in our work with women affected by war. So 2017, I was approached by the International Committee for the Red Cross to have a roundtable in Kuwait advocating and raising awareness of the plight of Arab women and children affected by war. Unfortunately, the Arab world is the region, the hottest region in the world, because we have more wars, we have more wars than anywhere else in the world, and more displacement of populations within the Arab world. So when we had the roundtable, one of the recommendations was, we had 6 recommendations. One of them was to have more healthcare and mental health care support for women and children. And because I already have NGOs and initiatives in Kuwait that work with different creative therapies to have social behavioral change, I knew the effect of mental health on people. And because I am also a victim of war, I'm the victim of the Iraqi invasion on Kuwait. I had 2 small daughters at the time. I was severely traumatized because I was just shocked by what happened. Imagine I'm sleeping one day and the next day I am running for my life because my country's been invaded, and within 3 weeks I am a refugee. I was traumatized. And I know how that trauma affects women, and so I started looking at what was being offered to women in the Arab world emotionally, and I discovered there's no focus, but I also discovered there were hindrances to why there was no focus, and one of the main ones is the stigma and the shame of psychological support. And that's why we looked at the creative field and what creative interventions can be used for and with women. And we used the arts. We did programs in different art therapies, and we concluded with drama therapy because we could see and document the huge difference between different art therapies and drama therapy. And also we could document and see the changes in the women implementing the drama therapy.
Thank you so much, Sheikha, for this, I don't want to call it introduction. It's a story, it's a real life experience that I hear you when you were talking about that, because I am also a woman from that part of the world who have suffered from the civil war, from displacement, from having to move and having my 2 daughters that I have to take care of, etc., etc. And this is why, I was lucky first to be with the University of California, Irvine, and to meet my mentor who helped me a lot get over this through understanding human rights. And then the top of it was when I met you, and I am part of Intisar Foundation, who actually reflects all what I really wanted to do in life to help women and to help people who have been traumatized by war. To move to the second question, or to go, how does actually the foundation operate? Because many people ask me, what is the mission? What is the real vision of the foundation? I know it's about helping women, but tell me more about that and tell our audience who are going to be from all over the world.
When I started the foundation, to be honest, I wasn't thinking of I knew there was a need, and there was a huge need, but my dream when I started was actually much, much, much smaller than it is now. So I started just wanting to support women as a victim of war. I could understand what they're going through, and I wanted to, in a way, support their de-traumatization, support their growth, support their self-worth, because I also went through periods where I didn't feel my self-worth. I was angry, I was violent towards my children, but also towards others. I was beating my daughters, but I was mentally beating other people, including myself. So I knew that I had to do something. When we started the Intisar Foundation, our dream was just to support women, but while working with these women using drama therapy, and this is why I love measuring the impact of what we do. From what we gathered as information from the women that we worked with, what we realized was they were getting to this place of peace, that they no longer would tolerate abuse on themselves, and they no longer do abuse their children or allow the abuse of their children like they used to. And this realization, seeing the impact of drama therapy on the women, gave me the courage to look at things from an even higher perspective. Because when these women started achieving peace within themselves, they started, in a way, it became like a wave to their families. So they stopped their daughters being married young. They stopped getting their daughters out of school young. They started to see that they deserve more than being abused, and their children deserve more love. So this place of peace encouraged me and gave me the tenacity to go to a higher goal, and that is 1 million women. And with that 1 million women, we know we can affect millions of families, millions of people, and we are working towards peace in the region through the self-empowerment of women. And I will stress on self-empowerment, because we don't empower the women. No one has the power to give anyone power. What we do is that we support their self-empowerment. when we support their mental health, they start thinking of things differently. The fog in the head is gone, the anger goes down, the depression, the anxiety, every negative emotion decreases, and they have more positive emotions. And with these positive emotions, they start looking at things differently. They start seeing their families differently. They start seeing their environment differently. And what we do is we allow them to see themselves differently and to grow their own power. They realize that they have more power than they thought they did. The power is always there. They just never acknowledged it. And with your permission, I would like to just give one example of many, hundreds of examples. We had a woman who was severely abused for 18 years. From the day she was married until she started working with us, she was beaten almost, if not daily, then every second, third day. When she finished the program, at the graduation of the program, I went to see their play, and she said to me, she looked at me and said, I left my husband. I realized I was making the money and he was taking the money and abusing me and my children. I always had the money, I just never knew that I could do it. So that realization comes from her self-empowerment. This lady's done a lot of other, or let's say some other trainings about women's rights, her rights. She needed to discover it from inside. And that's why trauma therapy is so great, because it engages the person on a different level. And if you look at trauma is body, emotion, and mind. So we tackle with trauma therapy the body and the emotions and the mind. And when we support the untangling of the impact of the trauma on her body, emotions, and mind, she can realize her true potential. So what we do in the foundation, what we operate on is that women discover their true potential. I keep getting asked that question when it's elementary. If the impact of what we do is not measured or cannot be measured, how can we assess that what we do is good enough or not? And that's where research comes. It gives you guidelines on what works best so we can grow it, what works least so we can abandon it. And that's basically what research helps us to do. That's number one. And the second thing is there's very little information, very little data that is available about Arab women affected by war, and especially the psychological data. And so what we want to do also through our research is to grow the pool of data available for international NGOs and international humanitarian work to understand that this works with Arab women, this doesn't work. We cannot bring a Western data and implement it on our women. We think differently, our culture is different. And without this data, then people will continue doing what they're doing and thinking it'll work. When you measure the results, sometimes it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And that's when, one of the things that I'd like to share is some of the women we've worked with have actually done another training about their rights. As human beings, this is your right as a human being, this is your right as a woman. But these information they got was from the Western world, and our culture is so different that they didn't understand it. That's why with all the information they got about their rights, they were unable to change their narrative.
Great.
And so part of what we want to do is give the information to the world that this is what what happens when we work with Arab women. We can achieve lots of things, and this is information. And make it open for everyone to use because everyone wants to support. So a very small part of what we do is to support the support of the international aid agencies in the Arab world.
Thank you so much, Your Royal Highness Sheikha Intisar AlSabah. This is amazing. This is just an act for peace, an organization that is set to promote not only self-empowerment of women, but as you mentioned at the end, helping societies, communities, our Arab world, and eventually the whole world. Thank you so much, Sheikha Intisar. Thank you. As you well know by now, Intisar Foundation is about women, empowerment, and specifically psychological empowerment. One would wonder, why psychological empowerment? Why not physiological, physical, economic empowerment? Definitely all are important. But if you don't have a strong, enabled, healthy, psychologically, mentally healthy human being, then all of the above does not really work. So our approach is drama therapy. Why drama therapy? Drama therapy is about verbal and non-verbal communication. It's about expression. It's about life stage. So instead of being confined at their home and having the fear of expressing themselves, we're telling them, it's yours. Here's the stage, express yourselves. Of course, it is with the support of the drama therapist. And I'm sure my colleague Sara will explain more about how the field work takes place and how women are recruited into coming in and getting the help, because they have been women who are traumatized by different forms of trauma, by different forms of violence, war, displacement. So they need help. They usually don't seek help because of their inability to actually know that they need help. So yes, drama therapy, fieldwork, intervention is very important, but we don't want it to be just within the boundaries of a room and a stage. We want the word to spread. We want to educate other people about the significance of empowering women, psychologically empowering women, and specifically using drama therapy. And now we're going to be joined by my colleagues, Dr. Myriam El Khoury, who is a clinical psychologist and an assistant professor at the Lebanese American University. Dr. Myriam is specifically focusing on the neuroscience aspect of our research. Imagine we are going beyond psychological, meaning just the psychological and the mental issues, to go more in depth in understanding the science and the neuroscience behind what we do. And before that, maybe our Sara Sakhi, who is our coordinator and senior field coordinator and senior research consultant at Intisar Foundation, in telling us about what really happens on the ground, what kind of field work we are doing, and how we do the pre and post tests, and how we study the impact of what we do in terms of drama therapy. So maybe it's good to start with you, Sara, first.
Thank you, Dr. Lina, for the great introduction. So as you said, drama therapy is unique because it's more of a cultural activity rather than a therapy. And this allows us to access the most vulnerable populations without being imposing or kind of creating any issues within the communities that they are in. So in terms of implementation, we've been working for close to 3 years in drama therapy in Lebanon and in Jordan. Our programs have had great results, and that happened because since day one we've been very keen on documenting and researching everything that we do. To give you a bit of context of the situation here in Lebanon and in Jordan, in the Arab world in general, we here in the Middle East have been consistently the least peaceful area in the world for the last 6 years. We are both the reason and the recipients of the biggest refugee population in the world. Lebanon and Jordan have the highest ratio of refugees to locals. So we have a very serious issue that there's almost 1% of the world that is either refugees or internally displaced people who are more or less more likely to suffer from mental health issues. And the kind of humanitarian aid that is offered to them is so limited to tangible things like food, healthcare, education. That is not to say that those things are not important, but there's also a very important element that would complete the circle of humanitarian aid, which is mental health. And this is where Intisar Foundation came in. We started drama therapy programs for women affected by war in 2018. The goal was to self-empower. It was to help them heal through the traumas that they have lived through. And we've been conducting research since day one using psychometric scales, i.e. to measure depression and anxiety, post-traumatic stress disorder, prior to and after the programs that we implement. And we've seen that there's a great potential and very ripe soil for research. We've seen that there was an amazing ripple effect on the community, within the women, and in areas that really required more research. And that's why we decided to really focus our efforts on the research. We are currently carrying out about probably 6 research projects in varying levels of implementation, and we're so excited to talk about them today.
Yes, great. Actually, what you just mentioned, Sara, is very pertinent in terms of building peace for our region here. Because if we build peace in this part of the world, we are actually overspilling it. You know, if we do it in Lebanon, we are overspilling to our neighbors, and it could be, you know, world peace, because we are so interconnected. But also, I wanted to add to what you have just said, that the majority of the refugees and displaced are women. So because most of the time people would ask us, why women? You know, they are the majority. You know, women and children are the majority of the refugees. So definitely our focus on women is very important. And, you know, Sheikha also always focuses on this aspect, that women are the cornerstone of our societies. And you also mentioned a very important point about mental health as being an important element in the humanitarian field, but also developmental field. Because if, you know, as we always say, if they are mentally healthy, then they can be productive and can work and be more profitable to themselves first and to their communities next. So as you mentioned, we have many projects. And actually these projects, as you well know, Dr. Khoury, you know, when we end the project, a new idea comes up. So it's just like any big research. In the conclusion, oh, we need to do more. And we didn't stop. So we do the field work, we do the research, and we conclude that we need to do more. So this brought us to the Peace Project. But you know what, Sara, before I go into the Peace Project, maybe if you can tell us about the study we did, the first one that was done, and what were the main results from that study?
Right, definitely. So at the start, we carried out a qualitative research. We thought about qualitative because the impact of drama therapy can be so large. So before quantifying and really settling on any metrics, we thought about doing qualitative, and that started with 7 qualitative interviews with the woman that we had worked with, who had completed 12 sessions of drama therapy over 3 months. And we had 3 major findings. The first one was that there was a reduction in negative emotions, and that under that fell a reduction in anger. As you said, it played a lot into the dynamics within the family and within the community. Then another major finding was an improvement of positive emotions, and we saw more emotional well-being, we saw more self-esteem, we saw that the women were able to find happiness in places that they hadn't thought they would be able to find before. And then lastly, we found that the drama therapy programs that we had done had created a sense of community within the women. A lot of refugee women in Lebanon and abroad leave their countries, leave their cities, their neighborhoods, and they are placed into a cramped, small place where there is no sense of community, where you're less likely to go out to meet people, to form friendships. And there's always a sense of fear and intergroup tensions. So we saw that drama therapy actually created a sense of community and friendship within the group that we had worked with. So those were the three major findings of our first qualitative research. And as you said, it inspired us to look more into psychometric aspects, including PTSD, depression, and anxiety.
Perfect. So actually, in a nutshell, what you just spoke about, we from drama therapy, we focused on the power of narratives. So we took their stories, and we have many success stories from drama therapy. So taking from this aspect of the narrative and filling the gap, which there are a lot of research. There's a lot of research done on anxiety and PTSD and all of this. But what we're doing is we're connecting what's on the ground with our research, and we're filling the gap. So, with the numbers that we are getting here, maybe like some of the findings you mentioned, in terms of anger regulation, the positive aspects, the positive psychology that we found out because of the research, and from their narratives, their shared experiences, the new friendships, and all of this, this highlights the significance of drama therapy. While we are doing all of this and being excited and so happy about the findings, COVID-19 hits. And COVID-19 hits, and we thought that this is the end of the world. Everything closed down, we are home, we cannot do much. Field work, we have to be on the stage with everyone. So no, we were very innovative at Intisar Foundation. So this creativity and innovation, we wanted to, with our drama therapist, Farah Wardani, who's doing a great job in connecting with those people, she came up with new ways of, first you have to educate those women who actually don't have access to online and to all those aspects, to facilitate this connection and to show them that they can still connect even virtually and can do more within using the virtual drama therapy. And maybe you can tell us more, because you were more involved in this.
Right, so as you said, when COVID-19 started and the shelter-in-place orders came in, we really thought that the world was ending. And in terms of trying to implement and coordinate something that would be virtual, it was extremely difficult at first, very challenging. We thought about what is the access for the internet? Do they have the devices? Do they have the knowledge of being able to use the video interfacing applications? And trial and error taught us a lot, but we actually got there. We started doing virtual drama therapy sessions, and we carried out an entire program that was completely virtual, start to end, and even that had stellar results. We did not think that it would be this impactful, but it was. We realized that people more than ever during COVID-19 need the mental health support. They need the sense of being looked after, having those regular calls, having someone's face, talking to them, interacting with them, and the exercises of drama therapy, the movement, the use of the voice and the body to express and to talk about what is often non-verbal and what cannot be communicated through words, opened up so many ways for the women to be able to relieve some of the stress and the tension that came with the COVID-19 pandemic. So to some degree, we are actually kind of grateful that we had to go through this experience to discover that there are other ways to...
So we did over 80
sessions. We've done countless hours of virtual sessions, and
it works.
It works.
And
it works, which is brilliant.
Yeah. I'm gonna rewind a bit and give some numbers about the impact of our pilot study, which led to our big scale project. In terms of depression, 93.75% of our participants experienced reduction in depression. In terms of anxiety, 75% expressed reduction in anxiety. While PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, we have 68.75% improvement. In terms of satisfaction with life, with drama therapy, 43.75%, which is, I know it from clinical psychology, from your cases. This is really significant.
Absolutely. And you know what's even more important is that the numbers you're getting, we are getting, those women are getting, is extremely comparable to classical therapies. Only here they're doing it in group, they have less taboo about it. So the best psychotherapies that we have give us numbers of improvement that are very similar to those. So this is extremely important to remind everyone that it's not just like a fun, pleasurable activity, and it is, and it's very important to bring in, as you said, these hike movement, emotional expression aspects to it, feeling on a stage. But there is like a science behind it. There are efficient results behind them. And they're very important because when we're decreasing this negativity and this trauma, it's the idea of breaking the cycle of violence, because we've all heard the sentence that, you know, violence begets violence. And we know that trauma, as you highlighted, is the missing link between those. So it's absolutely important. This is exactly how peace is built, internally, inward. So every woman is now at peace with her own emotions. And I'm sure this means that it reflects on the outside. And it's so nice that women are able to express, so they're very conscious of what they're going, the changes that they're going through.
You mentioned the magical word, because you know what, actually they also told us, and what we found with the post-test is 75% developed positive emotional experiences, and they started talking about those positive experiences, which is really very important. You know what, Dr. Khoury, you mentioned a magical word, you know, positive emotional expressions. So now Sara can help us. Did this really have the same impact with virtual drama therapy? Did it really reduce or produce same results?
Yeah, we actually we were very impressed and surprised by the results for the virtual drama therapy, because we didn't know that the program would be as impactful. But we've seen 60% of the women had reduction in PTSD symptoms, 90% had reduction in depression, and improvement in self-esteem. And we also had 50% improvement in satisfaction with life, and I believe about 60% reduction in anxiety. So again, even with virtual interventions, there is a great level of improvement happening over just 12 weeks of sessions. So this is, it was really impressive to us to see that, yes, this is such amazing added value to our work.
Excellent. You know, this is really important in my work that's related to gender equality and the inclusiveness of women, you know, in peace building. Of course, we have women who do peace building by sitting at the table, you know, the table of negotiation. But a very important aspect is actually women on the ground. Because, you know, during war, we see men fighting, we see women as victims. But not only victims, women actually do work on the ground. And most of the time, they are involved in keeping the social fabric, in putting the pieces together. So when they are traumatized, they do not have that ability. So in trainings, most of like UN Women, and when they discuss peace building, they say we need to really empower those women. And, you know, mental health, you know, to us, you know, as Intisar Foundation, has been focusing on this as a foundational, so we can move forward with other humanitarian aid, which is good short-term, but developmental aid. And this developmental human security. Human security is not only is food, it's shelter, it's etc., but it's also building peace. So to have all of this productive, we decided from our you know, research to fill another gap, which came as a result of what the women in their narratives told us. You know, they mentioned, they used to, as I mentioned before, spank their children, punish their children. You know, they transfer all their anger, if not at their husband, at their children. And sometimes, you know, some of those women were abused, you know, by their families. You know, they were as children being abused, and now they are abusing their children. So we saw this kind of, as you mentioned, this cycle of violence going on. So we decided we can do more about this. So yes, drama therapy did fill this gap, and we need to do more and to focus on this by doing more research on peace building. So we did look at the literature. in academia. And there's a lot of literature that talk about, how empowerment and peace building is important, but also how, if, abused children end up as adults become abusive. So how can we break this cycle and build a better society? And using drama therapy, which is our tool. So
absolutely, and let me just add the idea that when there's a war or an adversity like the COVID we were mentioning, it's not only problematic because it breaks down homes and kills people, etc., but it also weakens the living's ability to rebuild. And I think this is extremely important. So we started mentioning economical, physical, safety and security, but this is what guarantees the rest. So when you feel empowered, you can innovate on ways to restore your economical capacity, to rebuild your society, maybe in a better, more peaceful way. And this is why we are focusing on or advocating the fact that mental health should come at the forefront of the humanitarian help that is provided in these, especially in these conflict zones. But as we said, this past year and a half has made everyone realize how important mental health is. So I think it's very timely to talk about this as well.
Definitely. And actually with this project on, the impact of drama therapy on empowering women to become peace builders. They might not say, I'm applying for a job to be a peace builder, but just by their everyday life. And we have success stories. When a woman becomes productive and she maybe recruits more women to work with her and then deals better with her family, then we are expanding the circle of peace making and peace building within a community, and they become more aware to see within their children, whether they are males or females, whether they are vulnerable to extremism. And we're talking about refugees who live in camps, and camps who are, a fertile soil for recruiting extremists and, we call, terrorists and people who commit crimes and violence. So we are actually building a society and a community that is the women who are able to see the wrong, because now they are able to express themselves and to see what's positive, what's negative. And, by this we are reducing the potential of extremism and violence. And this, there are many NGOs actually looking into camps and seeing how can we reduce this. So we are telling them, we can do it through drama therapy. And, and positive psychology speaks a lot about that, and I'm sure you know about this a lot. So definitely our project, which is in process now, we are doing our drama therapy sessions, virtual and real. We're doing our pre-test and post-test. We improvised on our questionnaires, and thank you for the grant that helped us in funding part of this project. Hopefully we will come with the results and statistics to share the science of this drama therapy and what impactful it was in making these women less abusive, if I may say, more aware of what they can do, and to go from there. But by the way, while we are doing all of this, and from my work on post-traumatic stress disorder, we found out that, and this is why I mentioned before, it's really difficult to treat, because it's not only, psychological in the sense of, it's, your mental, your psychology, it's the brain, it's your hormones, it's your physical being has been violated, and you are a different person. So how can drama therapy really play a role in this? And this is what triggered our research in neuroscience. And this is where Dr. Myriam comes, and please tell us about the significance of why would neuroscience interfere with psychology, and why is it important? And how would drama therapy help? Maybe we are still in the investigative part.
Yes, absolutely. But I think it's important to remind ourselves that trauma is not an exception. It's maybe inherent to human life. Now we're focusing on very vulnerable population. We know that women are more susceptible to developing these types of anxiety disorders more than men. And this is why we are focusing our efforts on women, also because they have less resources usually. And we believe and we have the numbers to say that they can be very active peace builders. Now, what we know about trauma is that it imbalances the brain. So what you're saying is it changes personality. This is absolutely true. So there's dysfunctions in the way our healthy brain functions. This has been documented extremely well in the literature. The fixes to that have been less well documented. Some of them take time, and it's important to look at, as you're saying, sustainability. So we want to make sure that the advantages, the changes in depression, anxiety, and PTSD, they're not going to relapse. So once they stop the sessions. And so from here came the idea of looking into the brains of women before and after drama therapy, to be able to say that, yes, it is a psychotherapy. Yes, they're not taking medication. Yes, they're coming together as a community, doing exercises, reflecting on their emotions in non-traditional ways. But yes, this is helping restore the original brain imbalance. And it's important for the sustainability because, we know for a fact that our brain is plastic. And this has been one of the very interesting discoveries these past couple of decades. And plastic in terms of malleable, of course.
Right.
And so because we are teaching women new skills, including motor skills, including expressive skills, including emotional regulation skills, they're helping their brains to regrow. And this is amazing. And this is exactly self-empowerment. So it's their own brain who's doing the work of restoring this balance. We're just providing the right tools at the right time within the right community and the safe places. And so this is going to reflect on more sustainable, as we said, physiological changes, behavioral changes, and it's absolutely amazing that they're reporting these. So they're saying that their behaviors is changing. Emotionally, they're also talking about that. So what we see in the brain, or what we will hopefully, prove happens in the brain and emotional parts and emotional networks, is that this will reflect in physiology, behaviors, emotions, thoughts, abilities to memorize, to pay attention, to innovate. All of these abilities are hindered by the trauma. And once we restore the right brain balance, the flow will continue. And this is the importance of making drama therapy visible and promoting it as a very valid tool to the community at large, to reflect what we're really seeing. So clinical experiences are very important, qualitative ones. All the quantitative reports are very important as well. And we're hoping to back this with neuroscience findings to say that brain areas are being restored and maybe grown. So maybe they never had the chance to develop those, and now we're giving them the chance. And there's another aspect to the project, and I think we've touched upon it a bit before, which has to do with the transgenerational transmission of trauma, because we know for a fact, this is something we know, right? So we know that stress and trauma and adversities, they change your genes. And we're really hoping to step in here and say, you know what, but this is not like a destiny. So there are things we can do that can help restore these. And so we will also be looking at these epigenetic changes and trying to monitor whether drama therapy on the short term and then hopefully on the long term as well fixes those genes so they are not transmitted to generations. I know we talk generally of wounded collective memories for our humanity as a whole. And maybe this is because we haven't taken the time to really pause and treat and heal those traumas. And we're hoping that if we heal them for these women, then they will pass down more peaceful genes onto their kids.
I think this is such a powerful, statement, and not just a statement, an act for peace. Because what you're saying is, we are not breaking the cycle of violence by just teaching and giving them money and humanitarian aid. It's by changing their personality, by the mutation of the genes. It's such a powerful act. Hopefully with this research, I know it's costly, it's because we have to go through all the tests and all of this, but hopefully we can start with this project, and we will, and come up with results that help in promoting, empowering women first, and then promoting peace in those communities and worldwide. I'm known for ending my work or speech or whatever I'm doing by saying in a nutshell. But with Intisar Foundation, with the work we have been doing, I don't know how big this nutshell is. We keep growing from one research to the other. Our intention is to empower women. Our intention is to spread the word through research. And, as Sheikha Intisar mentioned, to reach 1 million Arab women, yes, but to be even beyond that. So with our projects, from just seeing the impact of drama therapy, to being more creative and meeting the challenges of the COVID-19, to realizing that we need to break the cycle of violence with abused women during their childhood who became abusive of their children, and to promote peace building, to really going into the personality of the woman and looking at their brains and their hormones and the changes they do and how to regulate, as Dr. Myriam mentioned, their emotions. We are actually setting the stage for an act for peace. We are setting the stage for more research. We will not stop. Trauma is something that is in everyday life, and we are trying to reach women who are socioeconomically disadvantaged, who tend to be displaced, refugees, or traumatized by different experiences. So we will reach more and more those women, and with the support of good people, with the support of humans who really believe in what is empathetic, what is positive, intolerance, and the need to help others, we will grow more and we will do more for our women, for our communities and our world. Thank you very much.